We are back again with Matt Sterbenz of WNDR Alpine. We're going to talk about what you've been up to, some very interesting new products you're releasing, and any other info you can give us on the brand. So, for starters, we talked last year. Can you give us a State of the Union on what's happened since then?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having us here in Crested, Butte, and at the Blister HQ. It's kind of fun to look back to where we've been in the 4 years of existence. Early on, we jumped at the opportunity to bring our co-founder of Checker Spot out, along with Pep Fugis and I, to speak with Jonathan about our approach to materials. And when I come back to Crested Butte, which I didn't have a lot of time visiting up till that point, it just kind of reminds me of how far we've been in such a short amount of time. So it's cool to be back here in the Gunnison Valley and to, start trenching some of that Roy out there and walking around the mountains. So, WNDR Alpine has been on a, pretty significant growth trajectory, which was intentional. And obviously, the animation of technology that we're capable of using the microalgal oil is our primary focus. And where we saw a real vacancy in the market was winter sport hard goods. I'd been building skis for upwards of 20 years in my career, and we were always making skis out of the same stuff as everybody else. And working with athletes through the process, we derived some really cool geometries, but nothing really gave us the value proposition that took the ski off the wall for the retailer or really jumped at the consumer when they first discovered us. So with WNDR Alpine, it was very much about how can we demonstrate this technology platform in the most meaningful way, performance-centric first and foremost. And then how can we start to lean into community and build that adoption, where people start to recognize a microalgal oil ingredient as a point of differentiation, as well as an opportunity to tune and perform above whatever petroleum had been used in the past. So, biggest change I think for us is just growing the category now to include snowboarding. Last year we debuted the Bell series, which introduced the Bell Air and Bell Tour. And that was a really cool kind of initial offering, kind of a big mountain approach to snowboarding, if you will, having both a solid and split depending on geography, but still maintaining that backcountry lane of focus. We also had real interest in trying to understand where the depth of the ski market was. We had introduced the Reason 120 last year, and really good adoption, but we started to think about, okay, the 108s now come online in replace of the original 110. Is there opportunity to potentially respond to the growing market interest of looking at, higher, farther, further objectives? And would there be an opportunity to build a ski that travels maybe a little bit longer, a little bit lighter? So, a lot of that is, kind of consumer aggregate feedback that we've taken on now that we have 4 years behind us. So, just being able to interact with a richer audience and just, the founders of the brand and, sitting in a small office talking about what we think we should do. And now we have an awesome, bank of testimonials and people psyched on what we're doing. So I think the backcountry market needs to be united through brand. And I think we're doing a good job doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super exciting. When you guys revealed the Bell series of boards last year, had a lot of people around here very, very psyched.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see it continue expanding.
Absolutely. Snowboarding was always on the radar. Growing up, big skate influence. Watched every snowboard movie that ever came out. I worked at a snowboard shop, but I was always a skier. And I just liked the fact that I was differentiated that way amongst my peers, but always kept up with snowboarding. And when we set to build out WNDR Alpine, snowboarding was always, the next obvious growth point. And to be working with Alex Andrews to lead the category, who's a very influential leader in the snowboard space, as well as now with Nick Russell, and a whole cast of really genuine friends of WNDR, we call them FOWs, who are on the snowboard program, just recently connected with some Coloradans, if you will, here on the last weekend's Outpost Tour in the Rocky Mountain National Park. And just so rad to see people move through the mountains with different devices, but with the mindset that's also so much the same, and it's about, getting in, getting out safely, meeting new people, challenging ourselves, tinkling the uncomfortableness of being in that scale of nature. But yeah, so we're psyched on the board scene, and the ski scene's obviously been super receptive to the technology as well. And it seems like those two backcountry communities are very harmonious at this point, which I know supersedes some of the vibe that was in the early 2000s. There was a lot of tension. And now everybody's psyched to have that diversity, and it's like, cool, like, oh, he's Splitboards, yeah, let's go out, and like kind of see the terrain through that lens is pretty fun as a skier who skied the same line over and over again. You go out with a snowboarder and they're skiing that line completely different, and now you're looking at the aspect differently, and I think that just elevates the whole community.
Yeah, I agree 100%. On the topic of technology, in past videos, we've gone over a lot of this stuff, but for those who might not be familiar, can you run us through how the kind of Algal Tech umbrella applies to the boards and skis you have now?
Absolutely. Well framed. I know there's a lot of technology out there, and certainly ours is one which we lean heavily on. Algal Tech is, again, the umbrella term for all the algal innovation that we've brought into the space. Quick background, obviously, microalgae has been an abundant resource for, oils that we can look to in replacement of higher carbon-inducing petroleum oils. And because of its biological nature, we can tune that oil profile before we even get to applied modern chemistry to make a material specific to the end-use application. And winter sports gave us a platform to start to showcase some of those material application sets for the first time to the world. And that was kind of the thing that drew me in, was get to introduce a first, never been done before material to the world through backcountry skis. Like, are you kidding me? Like, yes. And so we started with a rigid algal foam that we integrated into the core, vertically laminated with domestically sourced aspen, and we frame that as the algal core. So it's a cool material that behaves nicely with wood, doesn't become overly saturated with the epoxy system, which we use to laminate all the composites. Because of its light density and its cellular nature, we get some natural damping benefits from that. And that really speaks to the backcountry, market's performance interest. Damp, lightweight. We then took that same base molecule, converted the chemistry towards a cast urethane. So replacing the extruded ABS sidewall, which had an abundance of waste as a result of having to profile uniform dimension sheets of plastic down to mirror the thickness core profile, to a liquid polymer, which we now only use as much polymer as we need in the finished product. Not to mention we can tune that polymer to work specifically in the needs that we have for ski sidewall. Sidewall was there originally as a means of keeping the core dry for sandwich construction. It sits over edge, so it does have a performance benefit and or a hindrance. And the more rigid material you use, the stiffer the ski you get, but you don't get as much damping. You feel a lot of that unnecessary vibration traveling inward from the edge. Working with the cast urethane, a natural elastomer in its own right, gives us additional damping benefit over edge, while also giving us the tunability to make that material work really well for its specific need, not just for hydrophobicy, but also so that it can help calm the ski down and provide that resilience that we love in a sandwich constructed ski. So that's the algal wall. Algal core, algal wall kind of became the Algal Tech story. And then last year we implemented Spiral Made, using the flashings from the production process, which has historically been our number one waste stream. And it's not an issue that just we suffer from. It's the process. When you build a ski or snowboard, you're dealing with uniform laminates. Everything comes off a roll. But the skis and snowboards behind us are anything but uniform in their dimension, right? The tips are different sizes in the waists. They're all different lengths. So when you take that uniform material and you laminate it with epoxy, and now you have a nice thermoplast three-dimensional product, you have to cut away all of that excess square material that's already fused to its material, and it's essentially made out of the same exact premium material that goes within the ski. It just so happens to fall outside the edge. What do you do with that stuff? Historically, cut it into 12-inch pieces so that it packs down nicely in the dumpster, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I've been traveling the world building skis for a minute, and there's steel warehouses surrounded by dumpsters.
Mhm.
I don't know how else to utilize that material. So in this process of developing a pathway of introducing a liquid polymer sidewall, reducing waste, and ultimately realizing a B Corp certification as the benefit, we started to interrogate how much more of the waste are we producing and what can we reclaim. And so we took those flashings, invested in a machine that ultimately pulverizes it into a particle for which we can reconstitute with new bio-based epoxy and basically create like MDF or composite laminate sheets that can be, molded into this finished article size that we want to reincorporate into the new ski. And so we're reinforcing the mounting area for skis with this reclaimed production waste stream called Spiral Made and the boot plate that we make of it. Also for snowboards, we're using that same robust composite to reinforce the binding inserts, which we call the spiral insert packs. And it's pretty cool. Like part of the production process is that you go and laminate your lot of product when everybody in the factory is a single piece flow. So they're cutting their raw materials off those rolls. They're prepping their base and edge. They're getting their time with the press, laminating their fleet of product, and then they go and cut it out. And as they're cutting out, the flashings are going right into that machine, processing the particulates. As they come out of the finishing area, they're bringing a pail of that composite with them and reproducing parts from that waste stream as part of the fluid process that then goes back and feeds into the next builder's product line. So we're consuming our waste as we're building the product. And we hope that there's other pathways of utilizing that waste stream. We haven't found 100% utilization yet, but we're chipping away at that. And so it's been cool to realize the potential of these materials, which we haven't historically been able to figure out a benefit of, but we certainly knew we were having an impact with waste. So Spiral Made kind of falls a little bit outside the Algal Tech story arc, but it's integrated in with the ski, and it's utilizing partnership bio-based ingredients in this recomposition. So we're going to continue to lean in onto those two materials as we continue to develop more product. And spread the good word.
Cool. Yeah, I remember when you guys first brought like a ski with a clear top sheet that showed that. It's very exciting. You guys have some good photos on your site that illustrate the whole process really well.
Right.
Because historically, like you could liken pressing skis to like using a cookie cutter on dough and then throwing away all the dough that fell outside the cookie cutter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just can't reknead it because it's a thermoplastic. So we experimented with a lot of different pathways, and ultimately we found this to be the most beneficial. And I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Do you want to move into some new specific products?
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking to some new skis for this coming season, again, kind of back to the start of the conversation, we've had a lot more interaction with the community, right? We've been in existence now for 3 full commercial years. There's thousands of skis in the world, and we are so fortunate to have a direct connection with a lot of them. And we stay in contact with them. We survey them. They provide a lot of insights to us. We connect with outdoors people who are really intrigued by science, and they know that when they write to us, we'll have a scientific response for them. So, we've kind of like ratcheted up the geek gear guru community, and which I think is also part of why we love being here at Blister, because we know we're a part of the same community here with you. So the feedback that has come in is, love it. I'm going to go ski here. Do you have something that's appropriate for this? I've got an objective in mind next year. What do you think would be the right ski? And our number one funnel for communication on our website is the ski finder and or the board finder. And, people are very explicit with their interests, down to I'm going to go here on this date. And sometimes that leads to can you get it to me in time? Of course. But also, would you have something in mind that would work for this? And is there a ski in the pipeline maybe that might be ready by this time? I mean, people plan their now we know with backcountry and how ambitious backcountry skiers are. They're booking huts out for years. You can't just go find an open hut on a Wednesday for the weekend. That stuff had to be planned out a year or two in advance already. So people are pretty gear minded with their trips, and And so we felt a lot of interest in diversifying the lineup a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, last year we had the 108 and the Reason before it as an all-new shape, pushing the weight dimension out to 120, which a lot of people in the backcountry market would say that's 20 mils too much. I would argue that it's not. It's been a heck of a Reason season.
Oh yeah.
Some people, I think, on our crew, at least up in the northern and even in some of the intermountain regions, have only skied our Reason this year. So that's exciting to be able to push that boundary in the category as a whole. But now we're looking also outwards to longer seasons, diurnal snowpacks, good corn cycles, and the community of which we have started to interact with have started to seek a ski that could travel a little bit farther, and higher than what we've had before. So we're introducing an all-new ski. This ski here on my far right, or as the viewers may see on the far left.
Skiers left.
Yeah, skiers left, is the Nocturne 88. Nocturne for dark starts, right? Big days. We're going to be out, under headlamps for a minute, night moves. And sometimes that's like what we call like free time. Like, it doesn't come at the expense of anything else in life. You were historically going to be sleeping anyways. So that all that time in preparation in the dark is all free time. Life would have been lost. So we utilized that time to get into some bigger objectives. We wanted to bring a ski to market that definitely started to trend into a lightweight uphill, ski-mo mindset. But, with the Wonder Alpine performance metric of like this ski needs downhill. And so we kind of look to like almost reclassify the category as like a ski-mo to a free-mo. Like, we want to be a little bit more like free ride minded as we bridge into this narrower waistline. So 88 waistline, this is a 78. It carries a 20-meter radius. So just a tick above kind of the average for skis in this category. Again, we don't want an overly twitchy ski, especially when we're coming into it with a downhill mindset. So stability at speeds is important. Good longitudinal stiffness. We're still using wood in our skis, obviously increasing the amount of the foam in the core composition to hit lightweight targets. But we don't want to sacrifice what it's capable of when we get into those higher, more consequential terrain features. I think it also favors well for people who ski in leaner snowpacks and who more commonly are skiing firm wind press snow. So we've had plenty of that. Last season was almost all of that. So the 88 is all new ski for us. It bottoms out at 66. It tops out at an 84.
Gotcha.
Sample size is 78 right now. We're going to be mounting it up right after this meeting and running around the mountain with it with the Blister crew. So excited to introduce the Nocturne, all new for this year. It's also in complement to, the Vital. We last year had cut the Intention 110 down to a 108. We learned a lot from that, and we have felt a lot of interest in the Vital series ever since it debuted. It's a good waistline in and around the 100 millimeter mark. Gives it kind of a coast to coast appropriation for use. You don't need to live in Powtown, America to enjoy that ski, but it does surf well. It is as a carryover in philosophy will also come out in a cambered and reverse cambered version, whereas a Nocturne will only be in the cambered version. So that's a subtle departure from how we have historically framed all of the skis that we've brought to market, making each geometry and each size, both with a hybrid camber with rocker tip and tail, as well as a nice gradual, relaxed, full reverse camber profile, depending on your skiing style as well as your geographic appropriation. So the Vita will come out this year with a 98. So a couple mils narrower, but a deeper side cut.
Okay.
So maneuverability is going to improve. Again, expanding the market reach, hearing more about what the market says. I think we initially were really, really focused on keeping the narrower skis quite straight so that we didn't end up having any unnecessary twitchiness when we got them up to speed, as well as we didn't have the hindrance of having an overly deep side cut in steep technical terrain where you're kind of scratching the tip and tail and very lightly only hitting waist. So straighter skis in steep terrain is still really cool and helpful. But there is a variety of speed that needs to be measured, and you don't want a ski that necessarily just tips over when you roll it over. So adding a bit of shape to the Vital, taking some of the learnings that we have had through the years to extend some of the effective edge. So we're getting more of that ski's running surface and more of that ski's beneficial edge for the length of it is, for what it stands at. We're also adjusting the size range. So the big thing for us was just getting a better understanding of what sizes was the market expecting. When we started, taking historical understanding of what we did in the past, but then also looking at the market and saying, okay, like Nordica makes a 65, Atomic's got a 68, like should we make a 67, 66? And how does the market respond to that? Man, I wish you guys would have had a 64 in this.
Exactly.
It's like just a tick too size too big. And so historically, we were introducing skis at a 7-centimeter increment. So for those at home, like think about size setting increments as like a 180 to a 187. Mm-hmm. So stepping it down to a 6. So in this case, the Vital, we had it at a 90 and then an 83. So we're going to actually bring that in a little bit. So now we're going to have an 83 and an 89. And we're going to step that size range all the way down to a 53.
Sweet.
Have historically offered it in a 55. And you know what? It surprised us how much interest that size carried. So we're going to continue to support that, that skier profile, whether it be a younger skier type or just a more petite male or female skier. We want to make sure we have sizes for everyone. As our community continues to grow, we want to be able to slot that size in specifically. And yeah, like just the average height of a woman's 165, like we want to have a 165. We don't want to have to make that conversation any more difficult than it is. So the new skis are, I think, going to be a nice complement to the existing Intention 108 and the Reason 120. So we're going to have waistlines from 88 all the way up to 120. So depending on wherever you find backcountry skiing, potentially including the Midwest, we'll have a ski shape that should accommodate your interests. Honestly, when we first set out, I didn't think we needed more than 3 waist widths. But the community has begged differently. So here we go. Nocturne 88's on tap for next season. And then with the boards, like I mentioned earlier, we had the Bell Series, really strong debut. Being able to secure athlete profiles like Nick Russell, who has taken that board up to the Himalayas as most recently this last summer, it's pretty remarkable. And thank goodness we had the head start we did with the Algal Tech platform. We had learned a lot about as a team. I'm supported with an immense team of talent back at the shop, and we do it all in Salt Lake. So to be able to turn all those screws, in real time, developing shapes, geometries, material formulations, all under one roof, and taking it testing the next day, being able to deliver product to market as quickly as we have has been a huge testament to our team's capability. But with the boards, we were able to apply a lot of those learnings from skis, get a good geometry through Alex's and Daniel Malmrose's point of view, who's our head of production, and get something under Nick's feet that he felt confident to be in the biggest of mountains. Was really cool. But Nick came in kind of as that shape had already been baked, right? We were working on some fit and finish, but we hadn't really been able to utilize his voice until we turned to the next chapter, which is the board behind me, the Shepherd. The Shepherd's going to come also like the Bell Series in a solid and split. This represents the split variation, but same geometry. And how those two boards differ year over year. The Bell Series has kind of a mid-wide body. We didn't make a wide version, for instance, because we're already playing in the 26.5 or 265 waistline for the kind of meat of the shapes, the 52 and 56. I'm sorry, the 56 and 59. And we bump up even to a 27 in the 64 for that model. So with the Shepherd, we wanted to bring in waistline a little bit more, land the waistlines more in the 25.5, add a kind of a classically pointed nose to give the board the ability to kind of cut through snow and arrive to kind of a surf style that is a more akin to Nick's technique. We still have the hard charging Bell Series, but this board provides a little bit more finesse and design influence from Nick's point of view. And then with a fully rounded tail, which of course we had to lock up with a graphic mandala just to kind of show the symmetry there. Squishing the stance back, still very directional, a little bit early rise. But, again, we're thinking backcountry mindset here. We're thinking surf the earth, make some nice turns, and bring the community more together with a wider variety of offerings. So whether you live that past life or if you're out walking and earning your turns, the Shepherd Split and Solid is going to be a nice complement to the Bell Series for next season.
Sweet. All right, so I feel like we are nicely caught up on what Wonder has been up to, all the new stuff that's coming out next year, but what do we look to in the future for the brand?
Absolutely. Continue to support this lifestyle, this backcountry lifestyle that we have, so intimately ventured into. Realizing the potential of the platform, where else can we apply some of the material ingredient opportunities in support of this lifestyle? We'll continue to round out boards. We got a couple models in. Really strong community has been created already. We're going to continue to service them. We'll continue to refine ski shapes. We don't want to be, super wide. We want to have a focused collection of hard goods. But we are starting to trend towards like, okay, come spring, like what else can I be looking towards? And as we live in an active lifestyle, apparel has been an obvious area to grow into with the technology platform provided by CheckerSpot. And this algal oil ingredient can have really meaningful ways of influencing food and nutrition, personal care products, things that we rely on to make our journey successful, right? We need food, we need good food, digestible food. We need personal care product. We need to protect our skin, our exposure, especially in the backcountry. Just radiating exposure is insane. But we also need to look after our shelter, and a lot of the pathways of utilizing this oil in a meaningful way have illuminated textile finishes as a bright spot. And I'm actually wearing one of our first introductions as a new to the world application using the algal oil as a wicking application to fabrics. So we set out to go and network with the most premier textile manufacturers in the world, largely sourced out of Asia, brought in 100% recycled composition, bio-based composition substrates, cut and sewn domestically in the States, and applied with a finish which we call Midori BioWick that was done in collaboration with this Swiss eco-chemistry textile expert outfit called Beyond Surface Technologies. And BST brought to us a pathway of utilizing the algal oil in a formulated way that we could apply to substrates that give the garment the ability to wick. As good, if not better, than some of the petroleum opportunities that are out there. And so it kind of softens the fabric. Ultimately, what wicking does is it suspends moisture, it tracks it away from body. As it's suspended, it allows for an accelerated evaporation. So you get a cooler, more functional garment. So think about, an active line of clothing. We're not talking base layers or even close to mid layers or outer layers yet, but something that's active, pants with some stretch that we can wear, riding our bikes around town, maybe going for, a little rock climbing, maybe perhaps a little bit of skateboarding for a jog or even some camp vibes. And then also with some, appropriate garments that match the pants. So we've got a men's and women's pant coming out. This is the Stasis Active Tee. It's a unisex fit, extra small through double XL. We have a really cool woman's mock neck long sleeve shirt, as well as a unisex hoodie pullover that's kind of mid-weight. And that one's really cool. A little bit different texture in the fabric, but it's derived from 100% bio-based nylon. So it's been cool to kind of now start to kind of shift interests towards that side of the application set and how that rounds out the backcountry lifestyle in a meaningful way that delivers performance but also reduces footprint and benefits from this algal innovation. So as long as we continue to get that right, I think we'll see a lot of trajectory in that space. There's obviously a bunch of opportunity in the outerwear space, drawing away from fluorine with PFCs, utilizing algal ingredients for that to improve DWR performance. There's also a lot of coatings. So I think we'll see really significant innovation in that lane, and we're excited that algal will play a role in that space going forward. And Wonder Alpine is a great platform to introduce these new to the world treatments. So we're going to continue to lean in on Wonder Alpine to support the community that has been built till now and make it as impactful and as beneficial to people on the planet as we can in support of our B Corp certification.
Sweet. Well, yeah, it's been super cool to watch. Like, I remember when we first talked to you about Wonder Alpine and CheckerSpot, you're like, these skis are only the beginning. And
Totally.
You've proved that over the past few years, and it sounds like an exciting future. I'm still waiting on some mind-blowing algal-derived chapstick that I hope it just works better than everything else out there, because I've been disappointed by the established offerings. So that's
cool.
my challenge for next time we see you.
Challenge accepted, Luke. Challenge accepted, Luke. And yeah, for all those out there, you can find us at wonder-alpine.com. It's WNDR. And if you want to learn more about the tech, checkerspot.com. It's our parent company and where we're bringing a lot of this molecular biology to the outdoor market. So 2 quick plugs just to give frame of reference of where we're coming from. We're something different, but we're trying to make a meaningful impact in the world. So we're psyched to be here and to share this new innovation with the community.
Yeah, well, we're psyched to have you here, and I can't wait to try out all the new stuff.
Hell yeah, brother.
Sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.